96.9 FM, WAZZ, a big-ass rock station. How are you, rocker? How are you doing? I tell you what, let's turn up the volume here and sit down in your rock and roll seat. I got something to talk to you about on a more serious nature. It's not very often Big Jacks get serious, but this is the time that's called for some seriousness. All right, rocker. So here in a couple more hours, the city and nearby counties of Willow Springs are calling for a community council meeting. And this is going to be in efforts to round up citizens along with the county officials and city leaders tonight, beginning at 7 o'clock at City Hall, to discuss what the city is calling a four-alarm budget crisis. Now, this is a financial shortfall faced from the city in search of budget relief because, as the city put it, we need a new fire truck and some school buses. This is a follow-up to last week's city council meeting where a proposed fire truck and some school buses were on the city's wish list for the next budget outline, which sparked this four-alarm budget crisis. Let's examine last week's meeting with some common sense. City councilmen were apparently suffering from sticker shock Tuesday night as the fire chief, Mr. Ralph Briggs, outlined a proposal to buy a new ladder truck for his department that might cost $1.8 million. Now, taxpayer, let's break this down to you. He said that the city is growing and the old trucks are getting older. The latest new fire truck obtained by the city was a large ladder truck donated by a bougie fire department in upstate New York. I might add that's pushing 9 years old. According to Chief Briggs, the fire engines currently in service does not have the safety features to accommodate the modern fireman in these dangerous and strenuous work environments faced by the modern-day fireman. Now, what makes this new fire truck special was presented with a photo of the fire truck with a portable air conditioner blowing off to the side with a pop-up tent for the fireman to cool down in while on scene. It even comes complete with a pop-up shower for decontamination where the fireman can undress out of his uniform and get cleaned up on scene before returning to the station to the showers at the station. But it did raise a few eyebrows. Of course, the fire truck, that's 9 years old. Apparently, this is just unacceptable in the fire service by the fireman and the fire chief. And I'm sure that the fireman would like to take a quick shower after being in an old smoke-filled house. But I think he can hold his horses until he gets back to the station because the taxpayers, I don't know where you're getting the money. I don't know where it's all coming from. But I would love to help out the modern-day fireman, but not to the tune of $1.8 million for a fancy fire truck, when it looks like the fire trucks are pretty well maintained there at the station downtown. Now, if you put it in perspective, Rocker, you could order a fire truck this month, and you could be on it going to a fire tonight. But if they come out with a new fire truck a couple months from now, then, my friend, you have an old fire truck. Because they didn't just come out with a new one if they didn't do any upgrades. So what are we going to do, turn around and buy another fire truck for the modern-day fireman? I mean, if they was talking about maybe a robot fireman that could sniff out some fire victims or your pets in the fire, then maybe we could talk about this $1.8 million. But just to have a new fire truck on site in the bay, I don't know, my friend. I mean, I'd like to know when firefighting demands started easing up on these rescuers, because last time I checked, it was dangerous all around, and the fireman got hot. But apparently, the chief is looking out for the modern-day fireman. Now, this all was followed by the superintendent, who followed up with her performance with the need of a few new school buses. Now, stating that school buses driven 250,000 miles need to be retired on a diesel motor. Any semi-truckers out there, you know what I'm talking about? A diesel mechanic. I don't know if that's normal or not, but I don't know, for a school bus and a diesel engine, it kind of sounds right on target. I think maybe you got a couple 100 more thousand to go, but I don't know. I ain't no mechanic. She went on to teach us how these normal school buses now that we see running around do not have air conditioner or tinted windows, and they are highly questionable when it comes to safety and comfort for the student. Now, I don't know about safety, but I tell you, a 5-year-old school bus doesn't seem very unsafe to me. I'm sure some of these parents are probably rocking around in older cars than these school buses. She said the school system is needing funds nearly totaling $80,000 per school bus. She said the oldest bus on the lot now in the system is 13 years old. Okay. Don't seem very old to me, but okay. Maybe they don't have air conditioning, tinted windows. But when I was riding a school bus, the driver controlled the air conditioner depending on how fast she drove. I don't know if Miss Whitney knows this or not, but the school bus windows can go down. Nothing wrong with the breeze blowing in your hair, blowing the papers all over the place, and maybe help vent out some of that noise and air out whoever was up there passing gas somewhere around here. Somebody stank. But you knew if you could tough it out for a couple miles, you'd be all right. I mean, I wouldn't have minded riding in a air-conditioned school bus when I was going to school, but it didn't kill me. I'm still here. I mean, the door was a manual latch, and the school bus lady had to manually shut and open the door. I mean, she didn't seem to mind that she didn't have a little air pressure button to push so the door opened and shut. But anyhow, and speaking of the door, you always knew what kind of mood the driver was in, depending on how she slammed the latch on the door. And as a student, that can be very helpful along your ride, because depending on how hard the driver slammed the door latch, you knew what kind of mood she was in, whether you knew whether to cross or not. Now, Miss Whitney says that she needs a few new school buses. Now, I don't know about safety, but I tell you, if the damn thing was safe when it was made a couple years ago, it should be safe all right now to go a couple more miles, minus a few new upgrades, but enough to get you by. Miss Whitney went on to say that she also stated that a few of the other discomforts from the current buses include the driver would have an air seat, also automatic doors, LED lights, wider mirrors, an extended walk-on, blue seats, not brown, as far as the interior was concerned. She even stated that if she could get them in four-wheel drive, she would for the winter months. Chrome wheels and bumpers for higher visibility in traffic. She also came at us with this airbrained idea of ordering new ones with TV panels to help minimize distractions to the driver and eliminate disorderly children by providing them with educational videos along the route to watch for their viewing pleasure. Somebody needed to ask Miss Whitney how long these routes are. That's what I want to know. Sounds like she needs to order a few charter buses. I think she's getting school buses confused with the need for a few motor coaches. Her common key word throughout her whole lecture was safety. However, anyone listening close would have noticed none of these were mechanical concerns. If you remember correctly, at the start of the school year, this is the same lady who was on the local TV news channel singing about the district year after year needing school bus drivers for what seems to be a yearly shortfall for the district, stating that many school buses have been sitting parked half the year while drivers have been running double routes to get the students to class at least by 10 a.m. Because they can't keep drivers. But all I hear is that the city is needing new toys. That's all this amounts to. So, taxpayer, I ask you to examine these details. When you consider these demands over the years of service from these vehicles, they play on your sympathy. Is all it looks like to me, 'cause I ain't going to this meeting. They use these safety, keyword safety. But Rocka, the truth of the matter is the city does not know where these funds are going to come from. And I ask you, if the city cannot find the funds within the taxes, where the hell do they think the taxpayers are going to find it? I don't know what anybody's thinking, but it sounds like a bunch of junk to me. So you go on down there to that meeting if you want. But the city is calling this financial shortfall for alarm budget crisis. Because we got vehicles in service under 10 years old, with the exception of one that's school bus running around that's 13 years old. But oh well, it's running. Last time I got behind it, it looked like it was performing pretty well to me, even though there was a few students flipping me off out the back window at nearly every stop. I was driving behind it for about 3 miles. Sounds like Miss Whitney needs to order these new buses with bars on the windows to try to retain some of these broken pencils I saw flying out the windows. And I could have sworn I saw a young girl lying under the seats, pulling other people's feet. I did see a young man laughing and having a good old time crawling over the top of the seats. I observed just before the bus turned sharply into a neighborhood. It looked like the driver took the corner too sharp, and I was wondering if the boy who was doing the handstand in the aisle, if maybe her cutting it hard maybe might have messed him up and he fell over. Wasn't really quite sure until all the excitement and the bus disappeared out of sight into the neighborhood. Following the transportation wish, the PTA was there to play on your sympathy for a few minutes to talk about fundraising for high school sports and the band, and finishing up with a couple of lunch ladies who got together to talk about putting their 2 cents in about free lunches and outstanding delinquent lunch tabs. But nobody cared about any of that stuff. But when the superintendent, Ms. Whitney, was asked about the state education lottery and where does that money go, she drew a blank. But I ask you again, Rocka, I tell you this, I want you to think about this here. If the city cannot find the funds within the taxes that they collect, where do you think that the individual taxpayers are going to find it to give to the city? All right, Rocka, let's get back to rocking them city funds. Let's rock them old school buses and that fire truck that's needed across the states, and that $1.8 million fire truck. Let's get to rocking with it here, buddy. All right, now. And all of you here in Willow Springs wondering what in the world the city's doing, because none of us that live here know, and we ain't seen any improvements. 96.9 FM, WAZZ.